Well, welcome to my second video in the series of Korean seasonings. So my first video was about the absolute essentials list of seasonings that you want to have if you're just getting into Korean cooking, if you just don't want to have the seasonings fill up your pantry, you just want a minimal list, then that first video you need to watch. If you want to go beyond that, which I call this list sort of the Beyond Essentials list of Korean seasonings. If you want to get into creating more complex umami-packed Korean flavors that come from Doenjang, Doenjang, the fermented funky flavors that is very uniquely Korean, then you want to watch this video where I talk about all the different seasoning ingredients that you can use, how to use them, how to buy the best one, how it's generally really used in Korean cooking, what flavors they have, and all of that. So welcome to my second video, and let's get talking about the Beyond Essentials list. So now that I've discussed and talked about the core, the absolute essentials list of seasonings for Korean cooking, let me talk about some additional ones that you will want to add to your list if you're going to go deeper into Korean cooking, into Korean cuisine. And the first one is doenjang. Doenjang is sort of the byproduct of the soy sauce in some ways, but of course, that is the goal for that fermentation. So doenjang is started with these soybeans that I have here at home. These are cooked and made into blocks, and they're called meju blocks. And we ferment them in a warm place for a month or two until you get all sorts of colorful molds, yellow, black, green, red, and then at some point you get that out, you wash off the mold, but then you put them in a big hangari, big jar with salt brine in them with the blocks, and then you let it sit there for a few months, and then what you get is this 국간장 first. So this is 조선 간장, or also called 국간장, and this is very uniquely Korean soy sauce, and it is very salty, so use sparingly. Just a little bit goes a long way, but it has such a unique sort of almost like a fish sauce kind of funky taste. And it adds great flavor to soups, for Korean soups, for stews, for namul. It's used in. Okay, had to take a break because there was a fly flying around. I hate flies. Okay, so back to 조선 간장, 국간장, also called 집간장, soup soy sauce or Korean soy sauce for soups, and so we get that first. And I told you it's used to flavor namul, the Korean vegetable dishes made from the dried mountain greens. It's a must for that dish. So if you are into that, you need to get this sauce. It is so good. It's one of my favorite ingredients to use when you want that uniquely Korean flavor. And a lot of people don't know the difference between that and this jjimganjang, and now you know. If you actually talk to some young Korean, young Koreans who haven't done a lot of cooking, they may not be able to tell you the difference. So that's how they're used, and they have different flavors. Always with seasoning, just taste a little bit and learn. Learn for yourself how they taste and how they add different flavors as you use them in Korean cooking. So those are the two soy sauces. And so that black liquid you get from the soybean blocks, you remove that, and actually this one is made by adding some additional flavors to that, and kind of boiling it and reducing it. Then the remaining soybeans, because the liquid now is gone, you let the soybeans now sit in the jar continuously with some salt added, and after a few more months of fermentation, you get Korean doenjang. And this is again very uniquely Korean ingredient. And unfortunately, just like many of the seasonings, some of them are really naturally fermented, some are not. So these are my two favorite ones that are naturally fermented and have very limited ingredients. They're just as good. This one is called Baekil Doenjang, this one is called Doenjang, and I will just show you what they look like inside. So kind of like gochujang, but of course it's not spicy at all. It's salty, and it's again very funky, flavorful. It's kind of like miso, but it's a lot more salt. Salt level is about the same, I think, but it has a lot more flavors. Is more funky than miso. So this is one of those that you may not like it at first, and the smell is also sometimes off, not the best for some people. Koreans, we love it. We grew up with that smell. It reminds us of home. It's such a comforting smell, but it's not always the most fragrant. So, and we make stews with it. We make samjang with it. So samjang is a mix of this doenjang and gochujang and some additional ingredients. Of course, I have a recipe for samjang on my blog. I have a recipe, not a recipe, a post about doenjang too. I explain how it's made, how to buy, how they change color also over time. So this is a fresher one. Of course, the doenjang itself can have different colors, but overall, again, if you leave it, if it goes on over a year, then it will get darker. The flavor is still good. So doenjang you can keep for years. It will just keep on kind of fermenting if it's made the right way. Oh my God! Yeah. So doenjang you can keep in the fridge for years. So don't worry about that too much. And it can actually, some people prefer a very old, like fermented doenjang. Only thing you have to watch out for is because over time it will, the moisture will evaporate and it will get more salty in flavor. Sometimes it can get bitter over time, so you may want to, if it's like a couple years old or whatever, you may want to taste it again. And again, that's for high quality, naturally fermented doenjang. There are tons of other doenjangs that are flavored or just kind of made with chemical process that may not last as long. So again, make sure you look at the ingredients. This one, unfortunately, doesn't have an English label, but it has very limited ingredients because they were fermented. So those are my two recommendations for doenjang. This one is called 옛날 쌀엿. It's otugi brand, so this is 100% rice. Only thing is, this is pretty thick. So this is what I would use for gochujang, for example. But for everyday use, they're a little bit of a hassle to add, and sometimes it makes it too thick. So, and this is something that I think can be replaced by other syrups. Doesn't have a whole lot of flavor, right? So what I do for most of my recipes, I use actually 100% maple syrup for a lot of the syrup part. But you're welcome to try this. Use it in desserts too, so you can use that. I use this for yakgwa, for example. So yeah, and then, or you can use agave syrup or whatever syrup you want to try. Because I feel they don't add a whole lot of flavor. They just add the sweetness and the sort of the stickiness. And then Koreans loved corn syrup and oligosaccharides because they added great sheen to your dish. But I feel that's not as important as something that you like to use or healthy. So Okay, that's it about salya. Okay, so here's a close-up of 새우젓, fermented salted shrimp. These teeny little guys, they're all little shrimps. So this one, you use it with your samgyeopsal, pork belly, kui. It's a great combination. Any pork that's boiled or grilled, it's a great combo for that. You can use it to flavor certain dishes that need that sort of fishy funkiness, like a seafood stew. You can put that in. It's not used in a whole lot of dishes other than kimchi, but it is such an important ingredient when you want to have it as with pork. And also, it's said that this shrimp helps your body fight off any sort of contamination a pork may have. I mean, according to old Korean traditional medicine, they say this one helps you not get sick from eating maybe a little spoiled pork or something. In the old days when there was no refrigeration, that was kind of important. So it's a food that they say it's good to pair with pork. It helps you get rid of any negative effects of the pork. So the last one on this list is perilla seed oil. So some people get confused between sesame seed oil and perilla seed oil, and sesame seed and perilla, because in Korean they're both called ge, which is of that variety, but it's a different, totally different plant. Perilla seed plant is also the plant. I meant to say sesame seed plant. Sesame seed plant does nothing but produce sesame seeds in these pods, and you don't eat the leaves. Perilla seeds are the seeds of the perilla plant, also called the beefsteak plant in the US. We eat the leaves, genip perilla as sam in different dishes as garnish. It's one of my favorite herbs. So these are the seeds from that plant, and you can see how it looks. It's kind of big and gray, and these are very herbaceous, flavorful. They're of the mint family, so it has a bit of a hint of mint flavor. Some people describe anise flavor too. So these are also kind of used like sesame seeds. They are used in as topping for namul too. You grind it also and add to hearty jjigae like kamjatang, or where you want to have this sort of that herbaceous flavor balance out the thick meaty flavor. But again, this one, even among Koreans, they're not all fans of the perilla seed. Dulge is what we call in Korean, dulge. And then dulgirim is the oil that's expressed from the roasted perilla seeds. And I have two kinds right now. This one by Otugi again, and this was just a local brand. I've not tasted this one, but I just wanted to show you a different brand. And I find there's not a huge difference between the brands, but if you can find a local one, probably that is going to give you the best flavor. Okay, so that is all the list of, all the group of seasonings that you want to have to make. I think, except for kimchi right now, you can make just about every Korean recipe with all the ingredients that when I went over. Well, so I hope you enjoyed listening me talk about all the Korean cooking ingredients. Understanding them, learning how to buy a good one, how to store them, I think will make your cooking experiences a lot more flavorful, a lot more enjoyable. And so yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel because I'm going to continue as I also show you more recipes to cook. I will try to continue to educate you more with other information. The next one will be about pantry ingredients, Korean ingredients that you will want to get and to understand them better. So that's another one. And then yeah, subscribe to my blog. If you want to get my weekly newsletters, I talk about a little bit of my personal life. I talk about seasonal, recipes to cook. I talk about cultural things too. My followers seem to love it. So if you want to get to know me a little better that way too, please subscribe. And then ask questions here on YouTube, on my blog. Oh, and Instagram too. I have an Instagram. You can ask questions there. Follow me there. I love answering questions. I love helping people. So I hope you will do that, and I will see you in my next video. Have a good one. Thank you, everyone. Bye.